Our country has a culture of incarceration. The United States accounts for 5% of the world's total population, but 20% of the world's incarcerated population. A common but incorrect assumption, and a dangerous one, is that if we lock up everyone accused of a crime, then we will eventually lower crime rates. However, research shows that unnecessary incarceration, particularly during the pretrial stage, can actually have the effect of worsening our public safety and increasing crime rates. We therefore should reserve pretrial detention for those who are a threat to public safety, not those who are charged with lower-level offenses. The Cuyahoga County Jail has been overcrowded since its current space was built. While this is troubling on its own, there are also problems with inhumane conditions in an increasingly decaying facility. The jail routinely serves inedible food options to inmates, with no plans for improvement aside from weak assertions of continued oversight. The jail does not provide adequate medical care to detainees, and when medical employees speak out about the problem, they face retaliation. The jail has a statistically high rate of deaths, yet does little to investigate the causes to prevent further deaths. In an effort to alleviate the issue of overcrowding, reports show that in recent years, nearly 1,000 detainees were shipped to faraway facilities in areas with little to no public transportation options, leaving them stranded and responsible for getting themselves home. The state of the jail's operations are at a breaking point, one that fails workers, inmates, and our entire county. The current elected prosecutor wants you to believe that the prosecutor doesn't have a role in the jail population. If asked, he will tell you this is a matter for the county sheriff, or the bond commissioner, or the common pleas judges. In fact, he has outright said that he has no concerns with the jail population. But the elected prosecutor's policies play a key role in the size of the jail population, which affects the management and operation of the county jail. The primary purpose of the county jail is to serve as a place to detain defendants pre-trial, or when they have been charged with a crime but not yet convicted. This differs from a prison, which typically holds people who have already been sentenced, and where people typically are serving longer sentences. Our jail population, estimated to be about 1,500 currently, is significantly higher than similarly sized communities for many reasons, such as a culture of overcharging and coercive plea bargaining, but also because of the use of cash bail. These are all things that are determined by the policies implemented by the elected prosecutor. Cash bail is a sum of money, a determination based on the recommendation of the prosecutor or the charges the prosecutor is seeking, which, if paid, means that the defendant can leave jail during the pretrial stage. Typically, the amount set is indicative of the seriousness of the charge. But, as long as they pay a proportion of the money, no matter how egregious the crime is, then they can be released into the community before trial. This sets up an unfair system that makes our community less safe. In practice, cash bail allows for those who commit serious violent crimes to pay their way out of jail before trial, while those who commit what we might call crimes of desperation and other low-level offenses, if they cannot afford to post bail, they will remain in jail while awaiting trial. The negative effects of cash bail are multifaceted and threaten not just our safety, but the overall health and progress of our community. Research shows that even a 4-day jail stay can increase recidivism by 50% due to the likelihood of losing your job, your housing, custody of family members, as well as a general inability to attend to responsibilities. We should be aiming to keep people in jail pre-trial only when they are a threat to the community or a flight risk, as detaining people who are not a threat to public safety is counterproductive for all of us. Cash bail creates economic instability, which we know to be a catalyst for more crime and violent acts. If the primary source of income in a family is detained and unable to work, the safety of the entire family is in jeopardy. Paying bail can cause a person to be unable to afford necessities for themselves and their families. This instability is further compounded by the risk that pretrial detention poses to a person's employment. Just a short stay in jail can cause an individual to lose their job, which can have a cascading effect on other areas of their life, like the ability to pay for food, housing, and medical care. And the long-term effects are significant. Even if no conviction is secured, a jail stay leads to as much as a 9% lower earning potential over the rest of that person's entire life. The threat of all of this instability, economic and non-economic, forces individuals to accept plea deals regardless of their guilt. The average jail stay for those who can post bail is 17 days. For those who cannot post bail, the average stay is 104 days. These long pretrial stays can have negative effects on the health of our community. Those held in jail awaiting trial are 6 times more likely to die by suicide than those convicted and sentenced while on pretrial release. 1 in 30 inmates report being sexually assaulted in jail. Jails have a lack of services and accessibility for those with disabilities. Individuals who are detained are more likely to deal with mental illness without the support necessary to treat it. Pretrial detention can also cause downstream health consequences for an individual if they lose their job and, along with it, their medical coverage. This can prevent them from getting necessary medical and preventative care. Cash bail and subsequent pretrial detention creates additional victims in the families and children of defendants. The inability to pay cash bail separates families. It is reported that 66% of women who cannot afford bail are mothers. Pretrial detention can result in changes to a child's living situation, causing trauma and stress for the child. In single-parent households, this likely means changes in custody, which would cause further instability. Children of incarcerated parents have higher rates of criminal behavior, with one study showing that they are up to 6 times more likely to be arrested themselves. Cash bail is not used equitably. Unsurprisingly, Black and brown defendants pay more in cash bail than white defendants. Of the $30 million spent on bail in Cuyahoga County in 2022, $23 million was assigned to Black defendants. White defendants are also assigned personal bonds, functionally a bond of $0, more often than Black and brown defendants. A study spanning 2017 to 2019 found that roughly 1/3 of white defendants received a $0 personal bond, while less than 1/4 of Black defendants were assigned that same kind of personal bond. The alternative to cash bail is to base pretrial detention on whether the accused is determined a threat to public safety or a flight risk, in other words, someone who may flee before trial. Those individuals who fall into one of those two categories should not be given cash bail at all, but instead no bond, which is a way to hold serious and violent criminals in jail regardless of what they can afford. And if someone is not a threat to public safety or flight risk, perhaps because they are accused of a lower-level crime, they can be released under whatever conditions and stipulations are necessary to ensure the safety of the community, rather than held in jail because they cannot afford to post a few $100s. The current prosecutor claims to have no role in the determination of cash bail. He instead puts this all on the bond commissioner, the judges, and even local nonprofits, such as the Bail Project, which exist solely to address the problems that his cash bail policies create. Instead of changing those policies, he shirks the responsibility of his role as a leader on public safety. The elected prosecutor can absolutely lead the charge against the outdated cash bail system and instead base decisions about pretrial detention on public safety. Because the current prosecutor is failing to lead on this issue, county judges have begun to reform the system from within, answering calls from the community for a more fair system. The data shows that judges are issuing cash bail less frequently in felony cases, opting instead to use personal bonds that do not require a person to pay money to avoid pretrial detention. Since 2016, judges have cut the use of cash bail from 80% of all felonies to just over 50%. This is an encouraging trend, but one that is based largely on the practices of the 34 judges in Common Pleas Court. It is unlikely to continue without further leadership from the prosecutor's office in transitioning to a public safety-based approach. Filling up the jail with people awaiting trial does not make our community safer. Instead, it creates situations for individuals that can often lead to more crime. Many of those detained are not a threat to the safety of our community, but have committed crimes of desperation, such as crimes that stem from poverty, addiction, or mental health issues, as opposed to crimes of power, such as murder or sex crimes. Ultimately, the use of cash bail is hurting the overall health and progress of our community, and it is making decisions about the replacement of our county jail more difficult for county officials. I'm Matthew Ahn, and I approve this message.